Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video, which I think is gonna be so much fun. As you saw by the title and thumbnail of this video, we are going to be tier ranking every single book I have given 5 stars to in my entire life, okay? Now, before we get into the video, I feel like I need to give a little bit of backstory as to the books you're gonna see on this list, okay? So I joined Goodreads back probably in like 2017 or 2018, and one of the first prompts that Goodreads gives you is select a bunch of books you've read before and like rate them, okay? So I have a vivid memory of trying to account like every single book I had read from like middle school onwards that I felt required to put into my Goodreads account at the time. So we have cataloged some books back from when Kara was in middle school, high school, college, grad school. You are gonna get the lore on me today, okay? And these books might be a little bit embarrassing, but you know what? I am here. I am here for that, and I hope you are too. So I have a total of 56 books that I have rated 5 stars throughout the entirety of my life, and we are gonna just have a time with this, okay? I hope you guys are ready for the tea that I'm about to spill on my life. Okay, so first thing we gotta do is go through the categories of the books that we're gonna be talking about today, okay? I have 6 categories, all with very distinct purposes. The first category we have is Bury Me With These Books. These are God tier books. These are books that changed my life, that I think about every single day, that like have sunk their way into the core of my being, and like they will be spread with my ashes, truly, okay? These are my absolute favorite books of all time. You can't convince me otherwise. The next category we have is period. Now, period is like, yes, this is a 5-star book. This is perfection. I have not changed my thoughts about this book at all. I stand by this 5-star rating. You know, like this is a book that like truly is a 5-star book for me. Next one we have is A Changed Woman. This one kind of will blend a little bit into Bury Me With These Books, but it's not quite a Bury Me With These Books. This is like, there was a before and after for me, okay? Like I have a distinct memory of reading this book and becoming a new woman afterwards than the person that I was before. If you can't tell, I'm a very emotional individual, and like books have a huge effect on me. So when I was going through these books, there's definitely a list of those where I was like, yes, I am changed from that book. Next category we have is youre. Like, this category of books is, she was a bit impulsive, okay? She was a little overzealous when she gave this book a 5-star. This category is essentially for all the 5 stars that I have in here that I would go back and change my rating on, that I just am lazy and haven't done yet. So I know that there are books in here that I'm like, what were you thinking? Like, I feel like there's a lot of times when you look back on a book that you gave a higher rating than you actually think it deserves, or time changes your rating or lowers your rating, and that's the category for that one, all right? Next category we have is Don't Know Her. These are the books that I literally couldn't tell you the plot summary. I couldn't tell you anything about the book. I've forgotten about the book. Like, why did I give her 5 stars? Why? Like, I don't remember her at all. And the last category we have is This Is Embarrassing. Okay, first of all, why is the G hanging off on a separate line? That really bugs me. But this category is reserved for, yes, I was a 12-year-old at one time, I was a 15-year-old at one time, and I was a 22-year-old lost in the world at one time, literally, okay? This is the category of books where you're probably gonna get the tea on my life, and can't wait to share those. Can't wait to share those ones. Just like, don't look at me, okay? I did leave a little bit of preview so you can see some of the books that are coming up. So I hope you know which ones are gonna go into that category. Okay, so those are all the categories, and let's just get into it. You guys, we are starting off with A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. What a book to start off with. If you know anything about me, if you've ever watched a video on my channel or any of my old videos especially, I feel like I haven't talked about this book in a really long time, you're gonna know where I'm gonna put this book, okay? This book changed the entirety of like my existence after I read it. When I tell you I cried for a literal ½ hour straight after finishing this book, and not just like tears running down my face, like like sobbing, heaving, like could not be consoled, crying. I have never ever in my life, and still to this day, never have been as emotionally affected by a book as I have with A Little Life. The way Hanya Yanagihara made those characters alive and so real in my mind, it was unbelievable. Like, that is a book that I will think about literally every single day for the rest of my life. I think about Jude, I think about Willem, I think about those characters all the time, and like I need to do a reread again. That book is just incredible. While I'm giving this book like accolades and praises, this is an extremely traumatizing book to read. Like if you are interested in reading it, you must go look up the trigger warnings, because this book can be way too triggering for some people, and it's like, it's not a book for everyone at all, but it was a book for me. Like truly bury me with this book. I want to get a tattoo about this book. This book absolutely changed the core of my existence and will forever be a book that like is just one that will never leave my brain at all. That is one of my favorite books of all time, solely for the way that it made me feel like to be attached to those characters. I literally could rant about this book for 30 minutes. Go look up the trigger warnings if you're interested in reading it. Like, proceed with caution if you're interested in reading that book. You really must be careful with this book if you want to read it. But like, damn, that book changed me. Next book we have is Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. Now, is Sally Rooney one of my favorite authors of all time? Absolutely she is. Absolutely she is. But you know what? Not everyone can deliver a 5-star book every single time. And looking back on this book, I don't think it's a 5-star. I think this is probably a 3.5 for me, now that I've gone this far away from reading the book initially, and that's okay. Beautiful World, Where Are You? It was a different style for Sally Rooney. Pretty much all of Sally Rooney's books are based on miscommunication tropes, and this one was just like done in a different style. It was kind of done in like letters going back and forth between two friends, talking about the world, talking about politics, talking about the state of like everything that's going on as a millennial, which I did appreciate at some points, but like this book just didn't hold up for me over time. Of any Sally Rooney book that I am pressed to go back and read, this one is probably my least favorite, and this one I probably would not reread again. I prefer Conversations with Friends, Normal People, and the newest, Intermezzo, definitely over Beautiful World, Where Are You? So I think I'm gonna have to put this one in Yanar. I messed up. I was a little bit impulsive on this one, okay? Again, probably 3.5 or 4-star looking back on it. Next up we have The Great Gatsby. Now, is this book a classic? Yes. Is this book something that changed the core being of America? Yes. And am I also distantly related to F. Scott Fitzgerald? Yes, I am. Fun fact about me. But I do think I'm gonna put it in the period category because it is period. Like The Great Gatsby, period. This book definitely made me appreciate literary devices. Like I will legitimately never forget the big eyes, that like big billboard of the eyes that looked over the town. That was something that I understood that. This might be so dumb because there's probably a lot of literary scholars on here who are like, yeah, that. But I remember I had a really, really hard time interpreting literature, like classic literature when I was in school, but the big eyes, they made sense to me, okay? I'm gonna put this book in period because it is period. I don't think this is a book that can fall in any other category other than that because it is one of the greatest works of literature of all time, and I can't argue with that, okay? I can't. Next book we have, oh my gosh, I actually forgot this book was on here, is Complications by Atul Gawande. If you don't know, I am a medical professional, and this book is one of the reasons that I remember seeking an initial interest into medicine. Complications is a book about like a surgeon and talking about the complications that can happen while you're in medicine and like the difficulties of being in medicine. And honestly, when I saw this book was on here, I was like, I should read that book again. As an actual medical provider now, I would have such a new perspective on this book. I initially read this book when I was in high school, and I remember loving this. Like, I'm gonna put this in a changed woman because truly this was one of the books that pushed me to go into medicine and consider medicine more deeper as a career. And if you're a medical professional and you have never heard of this book, you should absolutely read it. It was outstanding. Next book we have is Educated by Tara Westover. Wow, what a book. I did not know what to expect going into this book. I read this book at the time when it was becoming huge. Like, I remember this book was everywhere when I read it, and my sister had encouraged me to read it. Initially, I had no idea what the book was about, and I kind of had like misjudged it from the get, but then I decided to pick it up, and boy, was I wrong. This book was so amazing. This is a memoir of Tara Westover's experience growing up in an extremely secluded area, and her parents thought that like Y2K was a legit thing, and they were like basically preparing for an apocalypse. I remember when I had read this book, I was absolutely shocked that people were living this way, like in modern times. I think it's like that total American, just like you have blinders on to what your worldview is like, and you think that everyone in your society or like in the US also thinks like you, but they totally don't. And I just remember like my eyes were opened because of this book, and it was absolutely astounding. Like, this book made me realize how fortunate I was to have the education I have. It just made me so grateful for the circumstances that I live in, and this book is absolutely incredible. I think I'm gonna put this in period because yeah, this book is a 5-star. Absolutely it is. It will change your worldview of education and everything like that. No notes. Incredible. Oh my God, you guys, Eat, Pray, Love. Okay. Now we're getting into the lore, okay? Y'all. Eat, Pray, Love, baby. I gotta give it to this book, okay? I went through an Eat, Pray, Love phase when I was in grad school. Like, I took a solo trip to Thailand. I was solo traveling around the world. I was having my Eat, Pray, Love moment, and I gotta give it to her, okay? I literally went on a self-discovery journey when I was like 23 years old. I realized I could do anything that I wanted to do and like go and travel to the places that I had always wanted to travel, and all you gotta do is just book the ticket. You just gotta book it. And I realized I was an adult. I could do whatever I wanted. It was, I mean, while some of those things are scary, yes. Is traveling alone halfway across the world scary? Yes. But I met some amazing, incredible people doing it, and I have some experiences that I will treasure for the rest of my life, literally because of Eat, Pray, Love, okay? This, I gotta give it to her. We're gonna go into a changed woman because I was a changed woman from reading this book. Like, man, what a time in my life, honestly. Like, it was beautiful. It was rare. I was there. The Eat, Pray, Love moment of my life was absolutely one to be beheld. That book truly did change my life, and I will stand by that. Okay, next one is The Happiness Project. Now, again, going along with the self-discovery moment in my life, I do remember reading this book, but like, guys, this one didn't change me. This one didn't change me like Eat, Pray, Love did. The Happiness Project is about discovering how to be happy, and if there are like actual tangible practices in how to achieve happiness in your life. And I don't think I took anything away from it, to be honest with you. Like, literally nothing. So I think we've got to put this one in the don't know her category. I know Gretchen Rubin has like a very successful Happiness Project podcast now, but like, I don't know, I just felt like I took absolutely nothing away from that. Again, this is going into the self-help books. Like, there was a true period in my life, it was right after the Eat, Pray, Love phase, where I discovered reading again, #1, and discovered that I could read books to better myself, and I was like, the world opened to me, and I was like, I can become a different person than whom I am today. Let me read every single book I can about it. And you're gonna see that in a little bit. If you're not already seeing it already, you're gonna see it in a little bit. So, but yeah, Happiness Project, don't know her. Don't know her. I don't remember anything about it. I didn't become happier because of reading it. So yeah, it was not a success in terms of my worldview. Okay, next book we have is Hex by Jenny Fagan. This is actually the perfect time of year to read this book, when it, like around Halloween and like just fall time. It's literally the perfect fall read. It's set in like Scotland, and it's about like someone who was convicted of being like a witch or sorcery or something like that. It's a great, would recommend as a fall read. I read this book in like 2 days, and gotta be honest with you, I think this book was a little overzealous for a 5-star. Do I think about it sometimes? Yes, but I kind of forgot the message of the book, to be honest with you. I think I remember it, but like, I'm not confident on it. And I think that this book was really, really great when I did read it at the time, but like, looking back on it, I think it was probably a 4-star. So I think I'm gonna have to put this book in ENR. I wanna remind you that this category doesn't mean these books are bad. This is just like, this is probably not a 5-star book. It's probably like 3.5 or 4 stars, and messed up on that one. The longer that I've sat with that book, it's probably a 4-star, to be honest. Next book we have is Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. You guys, I will never forget when I read this book. I read this book like during the pandemic or right before the pandemic started, and honestly, it was what I needed. It was what I needed at that time where there was like so much like unknown and like you just had no idea what was going on. We all remember being there, right? And Nevermore took me out of that peril and helped me just like experience the joy of reading and of life and of fantasy again. Like that series really did help me kind of like with that escapism during the pandemic. So I really do have such a soft place in my heart for the Nevermore series. It gave me the feelings as an adult of when I had first read Harry Potter as a child. Just like those feelings of like nostalgia and wonder and like fantasy and like the fact that I felt nostalgic for this book even though I have no nostalgia associated with it. Like I read this book when I was like 26 or something like that. I think I'm going to put it into either period or a changed woman. Was I changed from it? No. I think I'm gonna put in this into period because yeah, it really helped me at a you know, difficult time in our existence, and I felt like that series just, it makes my heart soar to the skies. Okay, next up we have I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Period. This memoir is outstanding. If you were a Nickelodeon child or Disney Channel child, you need to read this. Also, listen to it on audio. It is so amazing. She gets emotional as she's reading the book in the audiobook, and it's, oh my god, it's so beautiful. Basically, this book is about like her experience as a Nickelodeon like child star and all of the things that like we didn't realize were going on behind the scenes when you think like, oh my god, I want to be like Jeanette McCurdy, I want to be Miranda Cosgrove, yet like there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that wasn't very nice, wasn't very great at all, and these kids were getting traumatized. This is an absolute period. Like, this is a 5-star book. Absolutely 1000% recommend. You should read it. Yes. Okay, next book. You might not recognize this cover. This is The Notebook, my Nicholas Sparks. Yep. We did give this book 5 stars. Okay, you guys, I went through a real Nicholas Sparks phase at one point in my life. I was looking on here and I don't think I have the last song on here, but like, you know what? I'm just gonna put both of these into this book. Like, I went through a phase. I literally think I read every single Nicholas Sparks book he had ever written after I read The Notebook, and not proud. Okay, we're going right into this. Is embarrassing. I have nothing to say. She was young. She used to be young, okay? And piggybacking right off that, we are going right into the subtle art of not giving a fuck, okay? I told you I had an Eat, Pray, Love moment in my life. This is embarrassing. Now, am I proud of Eat, Pray, Love? Yes, I was changed by that book. But the subtle art of not giving a fuck, that's embarrassing. I had no idea who this author was. I think his name is like Mark Manson or something like that. I had no idea who he was at the time that I read that book. And now I know who he is, and I don't necessarily know if I want to like associate my reading style with him. That would not be the first self-help book I would tell you to read, that's for sure. That one is a very embarrassing one to have on this list, and I'm not gonna deny that, okay? Next up, we have The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. Oh, this book is so good. This is a beautiful, beautiful historical fiction / historical romance. This book is beautiful. It is heartbreaking. It's kind of like a generational romance almost, where it's like these two people fall in love as teenagers and then like their country goes into war and like one of them gets sent away into war. It's so heartbreaking. I feel like when I was growing up, I read so much like World War II fiction, and it was such a breath of fresh air to like not read a historical fiction or historical romance that wasn't World War II. And I thought this book was absolutely outstanding. I think I'm gonna go period. I don't know, my gut's just saying go with period. Okay, I feel like I have no explanation for it other than I am reserving these books for like very, very top tier, you know? But Stationery Shop is incredible. I would 1000% recommend it if you like historical romance, or even if you don't like historical romance, it's absolutely stunning. Oh my god, The Alchemist. You guys, we're back in my travel era. We are back in 2017 Kara, where she was traveling the world and just going all over and finding herself and discovering herself in Thailand, okay? I read this book definitely while I was on a solo trip, and I feel like it did change me. It did change me. We are going straight into Changed Woman. I literally read this book right alongside of Eat, Pray, Love. And I remember it just feels like you're turning a new leaf. Like I said with Eat, Pray, Love, it was just that time where I'm like discovering who I am, coming into my own being, realizing that I don't have to live the way that I've always been taught to live. And like The Alchemist was a part of that time in my life, okay? Just as you can see with a handful of these self-help books, you guys, I was going through it at one point. Okay, we're getting to a fun one next. The selection. I specifically remember reading this book, and this was one of the books that like helped me realize that there's a whole world outside of Harry Potter when I was a kid, and it was like eye-opening. I don't think booktube was like an actual thing at that point, but I had remembered there was like a YouTuber who I was following at the time who had read the series and recommended it, and I like, it was like my heart flew open. I was like, oh my God, I can read things outside of Harry Potter and outside of school. Like, what? Like my mind was blown. The reason I remember loving this series so much is because it was like The Bachelor, but like in a fantasy like crown setting. You guys, I went through a huge time in my life where I loved The Bachelor. I was a avid Bachelor stan for like 10 years of my life, and I haven't watched it since Matt James with The Bachelor, I don't think, but that was a time in my life. I watched JP and Ashley, if you remember that. I watched the first Bachelor season I watched was On the Wings of Love. I want to put it in This Is Embarrassing, but also it changed me. Like, if you're a fantasy romance girl, you probably read that book at one point. I think I'm gonna put it into A Changed Woman, because honestly, I was changed after this. I remember after this book, I had read like The Uglies, and this was, I think, around the time of like Hunger Games as well. Like, I remember this book opened me up to an entire world of YA fiction. We gotta give it to our baby. We gotta give it to the selection. We're gonna put it into A Changed Woman. The next book we have is The Giver by Lois Lowry. I read this book in 8th grade, specific memory of reading this book in 8th grade. And I don't think I could tell you the message of this book at this point. I don't know, I had to read it for school, okay? But I remember liking it. This was the first book I read in school that I remember enjoying. And I was like, wow, we can read books for school that are interesting and I like them. And like, The Giver is set in kind of like a dystopian world, or like a utopia. And I thought that concept was so cool. And again, it was one of those experiences where I was like, wait, there's a genre of fantasy and like sci-fi, and like I can read about dystopian literature, and like it opened me up to the world of fantasy sci-fi. And I realized that there were like so many more fantasy sci-fi books that I could actually enjoy and that we could read at school as one of the required reads. I don't know. I remember I felt like I had a revelation with this book and I thought it was really interesting, but I don't think I could tell you anything, literally anything about the book other than the fact that it was a utopia. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna put it in I don't know her, because I feel like I don't think I can give an actual review of this book at all, but it did open me up to realizing I can actually like books that I read in school. Okay, next we have Golden Sun. I finished it 2 months ago, a month ago, and I'm reading Morningstar right now. This book, oh my God. Okay, second book in the Red Rising series, and this book is so different than the first book. It's literally Game of Thrones in space. It's so cool. My mind is blown at every page. It twists, it turns. You like can't predict anything in this book series. It is so good. And it also has like commentary on like society and capitalism and like, I don't know, all the kind of like social constraints that we live in. It talks about that. It talks about like hierarchy of society. It is so incredible, and also twists and turns, and like, it's just, I'm obsessed with the series. I'm obsessed with it. The audiobooks are amazing. Love it. I don't know if it's an actual bury me with these books yet, because I don't feel like I'm far enough away from the book to know if this is an all-time favorite. It is absolutely stunning. I'm gonna put it in period for now, but I bet if you asked me in like 3 years, I bet it would be bury me with this book. The next one we have is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Yes, we gave this as a 5-star. If you don't remember the revolution that changed the world when Marie Kondo came onto the scene, I beg of you to go watch that Netflix TV show with her, because it actually changed the way I fold laundry and me and Reed fold laundry. So I will give it to Marie Kondo. I was a changed woman after reading this book. I'm not gonna lie. I read this book and then went through an entire phase of minimalism where I got rid of everything, literally everything. You guys, this one goes and ties into my Eat, Pray, Love journey, ties into my self-discovery journey, okay? When I read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, I was like, I'm a minimalist. Like, I have turned a new leaf. Who am I now? I literally went through everything I owned and got rid of like at least 60 to 75% of the stuff I owned, and it gave me an entirely new perspective on how to look at my belongings. And then I started listening to the Minimalist podcast. Like, this was an era of my life, you guys. This Eat, Pray, Love, minimalism era. I gotta put it to a changed woman. I look at my material objects so much differently after reading this book. Now you look at my bookshelf and I have like, you know, I have 2 huge stacks of books right there. But like, honestly, all of the books on my bookshelves are ones that spark joy within me, you know? I don't just have like a bunch of books on here, just have a bunch of books. Gotta give it to Marie Kondo. You changed the way that I think about my things, and you changed the way that I fold my laundry. So thank you. Oh my God, this next one. You guys, we're right back into the self-discovery era. This is You Are a Badass by Jen Cicero. We're going right into This Is Embarrassing. This one and Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, like, what? Here's how I explain this. I was young. I was young and naive, and I just had discovered there was this genre called self-help literature, or like self-discovery literature, because I don't like the term self-help. I feel like we're all just changing human beings in general, and like, it's not a bad thing if you want to change who you are. But I don't feel like, looking back on this, I don't feel like the messages were like helpful. You know, it kind of felt like a little bit of a money grab on their end. Looking back on it as an adult now, like at the time when I read it, I was like, oh my God, who am I? Like, I was like trying to like figure out what I was doing with my adult life. It had a place and time, but like looking back on it, I feel like I was primed to be the money grab for that book. We're just gonna move on. Okay, we're gonna move on. Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Period. I can't even begin to explain to you how important this book is living ever as a woman. This book is a memoir about Chanel Miller, who was sexually assaulted by someone she went to college with, and then she ended up having to go through an entire trial to convict this person. She talked entirely about the justice system and how difficult it is for victims to go through this, the constant trauma that they are literally having to relive their sexual assault over and over and over again, and then people denying what they're saying. It's like, oh my God, it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. This is probably one of the most important books of the 21st century. I shit you not. It is so incredible. And I implore everyone to read this book. It can be triggering, obviously. She was sexually assaulted by someone, and some of the scenes still just like stick in my brain, and it's so sad what our justice system puts victims through. It really, really is. Like, it's just more of a feeling thing that I'm gonna put it in period, because this book is outstanding, incredible, and it is a perfect book. It is a perfect memoir. Would recommend. It's unbelievable. Like, you should read that book if you haven't read it yet. You guys, I've barely put any in Bury Me with these books. I feel like I'm really reserving this category for the top tier. I'm really trying to be cutthroat here. Like, I really want to be honest with you. When I put a book in that category, literally put that book in my coffin. That's what I'm saying. All right, next up we have The Midnight Library. Oh, I love this book so much. And I've actually been thinking about this book a ton recently, because I feel like I'm going through like such a change in my life right now. And this book talks about all the decisions that you could make in your life and how they would impact you like down the line. It's like basically someone going through and like looking at all the decisions they could have made throughout their lifetime. I mean, it's something that everyone thinks about. Like, what if I had made a different decision in that scenario? What if I had moved to here? What if I had decided to study this? What if I had, you know, not talked to someone like that? Or all those kinds of things. That book kind of like discusses and makes you, I don't know, it just makes you really think about your life. And I love books that make me think about my life, okay? I think I'm gonna put The Midnight Library in period. It's definitely a 5-star for me. It holds up. I stand by that rating. It was truly a beautiful book for me, and I feel like it hits. And I feel like if I were to read that book again, I would give it another 5-star. Next up, we have Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. This was like the first book that I got in Book of the Month. No, that's a lie. I got The Great Alone in Book of the Month. That was the first book I had got, but this was a very close one of the first ones I had gotten. This is like mystery family drama type deal. And I remember reading it at the time, and I was hooked. I was hooked on this book. But like looking back on it now, I don't feel this is a 5-star. It's probably a 4. Was I extremely into this book when I was reading it? Yeah. Could I not put this book down? Yeah. But at the same time, the farther I get away from it, I'm like, but I don't really care about the plot. Like, I don't really remember all of like whatever happened. I just remember I read the book really fast and then gave it a 5-star. I don't know. I think I'm gonna put this in a youre category. It could oscillate between don't know her and youre, but I do remember what it is about like slightly. I definitely don't think this was a 5-star book. I think it's a 4, maybe a 3.5, like to be honest with you. I mean, was it a good time? Yeah, it was. But I don't think it's a 5-star good time. All right, next up we have The Night Swim. Now, this one was really interesting. This is a kind of like mystery thriller type book about, I think this one was also about domestic violence. Oh my God, why don't I remember it? I read it like last year and I remember listening to the audio because it's written in the way that a podcast would be narrated. Not that it's forgettable. I just read it really quickly and I feel like I don't remember it. I remember enjoying the listening experience of it. And I remember enjoying the message because it was about like I think it was domestic violence. You guys, I have to put this in don't know her. And this is so sad because I remember this was a very important book. And I was like, this got turned into a TV show. I think it was about sexual assault or domestic violence or something along those lines. But I think I have to put it in I don't know her because I don't remember. I'm ashamed. Okay, a little ashamed on that one. Oh my God, the next book we have, When Breath Becomes Air. Oh, this is a medical book again. Oh my God, this book, I literally feel like I could cry thinking about it right now. This is probably one of the most important medical books of our time. It is about a Yale trained, I think he was either a neurologist or a neurosurgeon. I think he's a neurosurgeon who ended up dying of brain cancer. And he got brain cancer like right after he graduated residency. This is a incredibly beautiful commentary on the work that it takes to become a doctor, how people treat patients. This is honestly one of the greatest books of all time. I really, really think it is. And especially as someone who's a medical professional, I feel like even if you're not a medical professional, you should read this. It's outstanding. And oh my God, it's a true story as well. And it just, I don't even have words. I don't even have words to explain it. He was literally writing this, like he knew he was going to die and he's like reflecting on his career as a neurosurgeon. Outstanding. I feel like this is gonna go into, it's either a changed woman or period. I do think this is like one of my favorite books of all time. I think I'm gonna put it into period. Yep, it's so good. It's so good. If you are an aspiring medical professional, read that book. Read it. Oh my God. Next up we have Crown of Midnight. By Sarah J. Maas. I did not put the entire Throne of Glass series on here because first of all, I haven't finished the series, and second of all, I have not given all of them 5 stars, okay? I'm only putting Crown of Midnight on here because I did give that one 5 stars. And I just recently reread it, so I feel like I can actually give an adequate judgment to this. Ooh, I don't know. You guys, I don't know where to put this. Crown of Midnight is technically the second book in the Throne of Glass series, and I feel like this is really where the series kicks off. Oh, the ending was so good. The ending, I'm gonna put it in period, you guys, because it's period. Yes, this book is one of my favorite ones in the series, and as I'm doing my reread, it really, really held up. Okay, next up we have Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is basically a book about like how to build better habits. And I read this book like last year sometime, and I really do feel like it did help me establish better habits, change the habits that I was doing or the habits that I wanted to break. And I feel like James Clear did something with this book. Like this was also like a revolutionary kind of self-help book in the US. And I feel like this is one of the best self-help books of our time in order to like break bad habits, form better habits. He gives like very actionable, tangible examples of how to do so. And I do feel like I was changed by this book. Like there are habits that I have either broken or developed that I can attribute to the reading of this book. I think this is one of the self-help books that's on this list that is actually like worth the read. I'm gonna put it into a changed woman, because it did change me. Oh my gosh, this next one is a children's book. This is What the Road Said by Cleo Wade. Actually, one of my subscribers sent me this book and I read it at a time that I needed it. This is a book about your life, and like it's a children's book, but it just is also a book for adults too, you know? Like it makes my heart so happy. We're gonna put this in period. Yeah, this is like if I have a child, I will read that book to my child. Absolutely, I will. And it will also be me reading to myself because like I need the message of that book as well. It just helps you like reflect on life a little bit, you know, and just like help you remember that it's okay. Wherever you go in your life, it's okay. Oh my God, the next one we have is Yellowface. I loved this book. Yellowface is so incredible. This is R.F. Kuang's kind of like satire book. This is just such an incredible read. The narrator of this book is absolutely insane. And it's so interesting to watch her kind of like go down this rabbit hole of justifying all her terrible decisions. R.F. Kuang just keeps getting better with each book she does. And I feel like this one was such a different style than when she wrote Babel, but she's just such a diverse author. And I loved this book. I thought it was so great. I recommend it to so many people. This book absolutely holds up. We're putting it in period as well. You guys, period is my most liked category at this moment, and I stand by that. Like I stand by all of these books here. They are truly incredible. These are absolute 5-star books for me. Bunny by Mona Awad. I read this book, I think in 2022. I feel like Bunny is a lifestyle on YouTube, honestly. There are creators who absolutely stan this book and have loved this book. And it's kind of like a secret society. Like it is a horror-ish, but not, I don't know. I feel like there are people and readers who like really embody this core, I guess, but it's not me. I enjoyed the book when I read it, but the longer I've gotten away from it, I don't think it's a 5-star. Like, I'm just not the type of person to be bunny core. Like, I'm not. I enjoyed it, but like, I think that's as far as I can say. I don't think this is a 5-star. I think looking back on it, I'm probably gonna rate it a 4-star. So I'm gonna put it in youre. Again, not a bad book, just not a 5-star. Oh my gosh, the next one is Our Wives Under the Sea. Now this one it is so good. I loved this book so much. This book is like literary fiction, but also a little bit of horror. It made me cry, and it's also kind of creepy, but in a good way. And there's also representation in it. I feel like I was reading this book at like the perfect time in my life, and I just feel like I have no notes on this book. It's incredible, and I absolutely loved it. I was really just primed to enjoy that book when I did. I'm putting it in period. Next up, we have Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. You guys, I am sad that I have not continued on with this series since I read Assassin's Apprentice. I really love Assassin's Apprentice, and like the way that people talk about that book series, it's going to affect me to my core. And I don't know why I haven't continued on. I just haven't yet. I thought this book was perfect. I thought it was incredible. It's a great start to a fantasy series. And I hope to God that when I do finish the book series, I can put this entire series in Bury Me With This book, but I can't quite yet because I feel like I can't give it the entire review that I need to. I'm gonna put this in period because I feel like this is a really amazing setup to a series, but like I just need to continue on with the series. I felt like it was a total 5-star for me, and it stands up. It holds up to a 5-star. And as someone who loves long fantasy series and long fantasy books, I feel like this book set up the rest of the series really well, even though I haven't read the rest of the series yet, but I did really like it, and I think it's a total 5-star for sure. Okay, next up we have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This was my favorite book of last year. I loved this book so much. It has gaming, it has generational friendship. It's so beautiful, and it's so well written, and it's also sad. Like I cried my eyes out when I read this book. I feel like I am between putting this in between Bury Me With This or period. It was incredible, and it is an absolute 5-star, still holds up to a 5-star, will not change my opinion on that. But I don't think I want to be buried with it quite yet. All right, next up we have The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. Guys, this one's going straight into this is embarrassing. I feel like Brené Brown, another self-help guru, someone who helps women look at their lives differently. This is a book that like helps you like understand that like being imperfect is okay and that nobody is perfect and like all of those things, I guess, but I mean, was it? I feel like I don't even know her, and this is embarrassing. I did go through a Brene Brown phase shortly after I went through that Eat, Pray, Love phase. But I think I'm a little embarrassed by that, okay? I don't have anything to add on Gifts of Perfection, but yes, we did rate that 5 stars, and we have to hold by that, okay? Oh my gosh, you guys, this next book I just finished last night. And that's Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, because of course I gave it 5 stars. Again, feel like I can't give a great assessment on this because I'm not even 24 hours after finishing this book. I think I have to put this book in period, but I must say, I think this book has the potential of being my favorite Sally Rooney of all time. I just finished it though, and I feel like I can't give that actual endorsement until I give it some time to sit with. Oh my gosh, this book is everything I wanted in a Sally Rooney book. It's got miscommunication, it's got grief, it's got romance, it's got trying to figure out who you are amidst a really difficult time in someone's life. It's so incredible. Her writing was outstanding. Like, I feel like I want to put it in Bury Me with this book, but I haven't given enough time yet, so I can't fully say that yet, but unbelievable. I love that book with like my whole core right now. I felt like I just could not stop thinking about it. And as someone who's just loves Sally Rooney, that one did it. That one did it. And I've literally read no reviews about that book at all because I just wanted to be in the dark reading on my own. I cried like 3 or 4 times. It was just so incredible. I know I'm gonna remember that reading experience that I had for that book. Give me 2 years and I bet I will put it in Bury Me with that book. All right, Pure Nessie. This was a fun read. This is a fun book. You guys, I'm putting it in period again. That book is so interesting. Like, it's cool because it's set in a museum. Like, the vibes are super interesting, and there's also kind of like a mysterious plot line along with it. I don't know. I just feel like that book really holds up, and if I had to go back and reread it again, I would enjoy it. The fact, I'm just so proud of myself. Can I just say right now, like, the fact that I've given all of these books 5 stars and I'm actually holding up to this 5-star rating, like, I feel very aligned with the way that I'm rating books, and the fact that I mostly emotionally rate books, like, we're doing a good job, you guys. We're doing a good job. Honestly, the period category is what I would want all of my books to be put in, you know? Okay, you guys, we finally have another Bury Me with this book. Normal People by Sally Rooney. I was just talking to you about Intermezzo, but this one, truly do. Put it in my coffin. This book changed me. This book made me a new woman. This book made me discover Sally Rooney is one of my favorite authors of all time. Marianne and Connell will forever live in my heart. I can't even tell you how much I love this book. It's unbelievable, and that book has only gotten better with time. I remember, when I first read the book, I think I gave it a 4 stars, and then I just kept sitting on the book, and I kept sitting on it, I kept thinking about it, and then I reread it, and I was like, obviously it's a 5-star. And I watched a TV show. It's just, that book is like part of my personality. That is who I am. I love that book. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It is stunning. You will never convince me otherwise. I just love that book to my core. Okay, next up we have The Girl on the Train. And we're going straight into I Don't Know Her because I literally don't remember anything. I think this was like the Gone Girl era, which I'm like shocked that I don't have Gone Girl on this list. I don't know, it wasn't on my list, but The Girl on the Train, why did I give that 5 stars and not Gone Girl 5 stars? I don't know. I don't know what that book is about at all, except it was a domestic thriller. That's the only thing I can tell you about it. Who is that? Like, what is she? All right, next book we have is House of Sky and Breath. Okay, I was a little bit overzealous when I did finish House of Sky and Breath. I do stand by the fact that I think I had a good time with it, but I gotta admit, it's not a 5-star. It's not, babes. Like, it is probably a 4, 4.5. The ending, 5 stars. The ending, out freaking standing. And I think I gave this a 5 stars because I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be such good setup for the next book. And you know, the biggest disappointment of 2024, House of Flame and Shadow. You guys, I bet if I liked House of Flame and Shadow and I gave House of Flame and Shadow 5-star, maybe I'd keep that one in period. But actually, no. No, this is not a 5-star book for me at this current time in my life. I was very disappointed in House of Flame and Shadow. Maybe I'm just taking House of Flame and Shadow out on House of Sky and Breath, but I don't think House of Sky and Breath is a 5-star. It dragged for a really long time and then it picked up at the end and the ending was incredible and like the 5-star ending, but the book in entirety, not a 5-star. Oh my God, you guys, we have the Hunger Games next. I am a late millennial. I am like a zillennial. Like I was born on the cusp of being Gen Z. I hope you remember when did the Hunger Games come out? Like 2011, 2000. It was definitely when I was in high school, 2010, 2011. We're putting this into a changed woman. I mean, the Hunger Games did change the core of my existence. As it did the entirety of America. And you know what? I actually never finished the series. I read Catching Fire and I was like, wait, that was just like the same thing, just another time. And then I never read Mockingjay, but the Hunger Games though, the OG Hunger Games slaps. It hits. I would put it in period, but I have to choose something. But Hunger Games did change the core of myself. And like, I had a major fandom for the Hunger Games. So we're putting into a changed woman. That book needs no explanation, all right? She changed me. Oh my God, the next one is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I don't know where to put this. I'm very conflicted. Skyward is like Brandon Sanderson's YA sci-fi. I did really love this when I read it. Is it a 5-star though? Is it a 5-star? I felt like it had some good moments and I felt like it had potential. I just look at all these other books. I'm definitely not putting in Bury Me With this book because don't bury me with it. Period though, is it in this caliber? Is it in this caliber of books? And I don't think it is. You guys, I think I would put Skyward in Yanar. But I don't think, again, I don't think it's bad. I think it's just a 4 or a 4.5. I don't think it's a 5. I feel like Spencer did kind of annoy me a little bit, the main character. I thought the concept was cool too with like the aliens. They were trying to fight off the aliens, but I just don't feel like it was an actual 5-star. I did really love it, but I think the farther I've gotten away from it, I've kind of just been like, 4.5. Okay, next up, Queen of Shadows. Oh, I feel like I don't know. I already put Crown of Midnight in period, but I just read that one. I do feel like Queen of Shadows though was arguably the best one in the series. Like between Crown of Midnight and Queen of Shadows, we got a tie here. You know what? No, I'm putting it in period. I think Queen of Shadows is the best book, arguably, out of all of the Throne of Glass books. I loved Crown of Midnight and I do stand by that 5-star rating, as I said, but I think Queen of Shadows was even better than Crown of Midnight. And I do think it was like a perfect 5-star read. I haven't finished the series yet. I've only gotten up to Queen of Shadows, and tell me why I haven't read on. Queen of Shadows was an incredible book. And I felt like we just got, that's what the series like really picks up at that point. Crown of Midnight is like the catalyst, and then Queen of Shadows is like action. You're getting like merging of storylines. Like that book is so good, and it is really where like the meat of the story lies of Throne of Glass. Yeah, we gotta give it to her. She's in period for sure. Oh my God, One Day in December. Where do I put this? Okay, you guys, I read this book at the perfect time in my life. This book is like a British romance at Christmas. Think of Love Actually in a book, and that is this book. I felt like this book was one of my favorite romances I've ever read, and I've never reread it since and watched it like totally not hold up if I had read it again. But like, I remember loving this book. I felt like this book encapsulated every kind of Christmas trope that I would ever want. You know, it's got like the English, the British accents, the snowy London, the double-decker buses, like all of that. It just like the pubs, it like really was just like the perfect Christmas story to me. I'm putting it in Changed Woman because she did change me. She did. I still have my OG copy on my bookshelves. Maybe I should read that this year and see if it holds up, because I look back on that book with such fond memories, and I remember reading it and I was like, no romance is ever going to compare to this. This is my favorite romance of all time, and it's a freaking Christmas romance of all things. Gotta give it to you. I don't like a lot of contemporary romances, but Josie Silver, you did one. You did one with One Day in December. Okay, next up we have When the Moon Hatched. Ooh, this one I just finished like 3 months ago. I loved this book. I loved this book. After I read it, I was like, this could be my favorite fan row of 2024. And I think it is my favorite fan row of 2024. When the Moon Hatched is a fantasy romance, and I feel like it was everything I wanted in a fantasy romance. There are so many times where a fantasy romance focuses too much on the romance and not enough on the fantasy. And I feel like When the Moon Hatched just did it the way I like. It was way more focused on the fantasy tropes and like the fantasy story than it was on the romance. And that's what I loved about it. That was what I loved about it. And I also thought the world building was really interesting too. I'm putting it in period. And I totally stand by this 5-star rating. If I read it again, I would give it another 5 stars. Maybe other people would disagree with me, but like for me, that is a 5-star fantasy romance. Yes, it is. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. It is. And it has dragons, which is always fun. Okay, Malibu Rising. Ooh, where do I put this one? I thought Malibu Rising had fun vibes. Can I be honest for a second? I think I'm gonna put it in youre. I don't know if this is a 5-star. Or do I put it in don't know? Why do I not remember Malibu Rising? Why? I remember it had fun vibes. It did have fun vibes. But is it a 5-star? If I'm being honest, I think it's 4.5. And it might be because I feel like I'm comparing this to, spoiler, Daisy Jones and the Six, which is right here. But I think I like Daisy Jones and the Six better than I like Malibu Rising. The vibes were fun. The story was fun. But I don't think it was a total, like looking back on it, I don't know if it sat with me like a 5-star sits with me, you know? Yeah, we're putting it in 5, yeah, youre. It's gotta go there. It's gotta go there. Did I used to say that was one of my favorite books of all time? I think I did, but the farther I've gotten away from it, I don't really have like a super big urge to reread it because I think I was more impacted by Daisy Jones and the Six than I was with Malibu Rising. And I guess I shouldn't technically compare the two, but like I am, okay? Oh my God. You guys, next up we have A Court of Silver Flames. Where do I put it? Where do I put it? Do I do Bury Me? Do I do Bury Me? Oh my gosh, if I put it in Bury Me, you need to understand that like that one's for me. That, you know what? It's going in Bury Me. That one's for me. That is for me, okay? Did I absolutely love the ending? No. But did I love everything up to the ending? Yes. Is the smut quite a lot in that book? Yes. And I would keep it that way. Bury me with her. Like, she is that girl to me. That is the best Sarah J. Maas book I think I've read. And I will not say anything different. Court of Silver Flames, yes ma'am. Yes ma'am. And I didn't even like ACOTAR that much. Like, I didn't even like that series like a ton. But like, there was something about A Court of Silver Flames. Like, I gotta have at least one fantasy romance in my coffin with me, you know? She's that girl. She's that girl. All right, next up we have Where the Crawdads Sing. What do we do with her? I remember I really enjoyed this book at the time, and I really appreciated the fact that this was written by like a botanist of like the marshes of North Carolina where this book is set. So it was like very accurate historical descriptions, but also it had the mystery intrigue, it had the plot intrigue. I feel like I have to put Where the Crawdads in period. I think this is actually, it is such a 5-star read for me. I look back at that book with fondness and I feel like it really is a 5-star. I thought the writing was beautiful. I thought the descriptions were beautiful of the marshes. And I also I thought that the story was really great and it did have a good message behind the whole thing. And I was rooting for Kaya so much throughout that book. I remember being so surprised when I read that book because I remember thinking I was not going to like it that much, and I loved it. And then I remember that book has sat with me for a long time too. All right, next up we have Ask Again Yes by Mary Beth Keane. I got this one in a book of the month box, yes, and I don't remember a thing about her. I actually unhauled this book a little while ago. This was a generational family saga, and I went through a time in my life where I really loved generational family sagas. I still do, but I read like back to back generational family sagas, and I don't think this one holds up. I think I'm gonna put it in I Don't Know Her because I literally don't remember anything about this book except one of the main characters was a police officer, and that's all I can tell you. I think it was set in like the 70s or something like that, but like really forgettable for me, clearly. I don't remember anything about this book, and I put it in a little free library down my street. Next up, we have Heartstopper. Y'all, this isn't even a question. I only put the first book of some of the series that I've given all 5 stars to on this list, and Heartstopper I've given every single book a 5 stars. There is no question about it. Bury me with Heartstopper. That book series is absolutely life-changing. I wish that book series had been their during the time when I was in high school or middle school, I feel like it actually would have changed like my existence. I feel like that story has connected with teens and preteens like all over the world, and just the acceptance of knowing whatever you're going through is okay, and it's okay to feel the feelings that you are, and like the support and the friendship, and like it just, the list goes on and on. Like, it is there for the teenagers who are coming of age, and I feel like it's a cultural phenomenon, honestly, and it rightly so. It is absolutely stunning. Can't say enough good things about it, and the series just keeps getting better as it has gone along. Oh my gosh. Next up, we have Harry Potter. You guys, bury me with Harry Potter. We're not talking about J.K. Rowling. That's not even a topic of conversation on here, but Harry Potter, that book series got me into reading. Like, if I had not picked up Harry Potter as a child, I would not be the person I am today. Truly. Harry Potter is part of my DNA. I know that there are people out here who understand what I'm saying. And again, not talking about J.K. Rowling. We're not even getting into it. I don't agree with her, all that kind of stuff. Her personally, we're not talking about that, all right? But Harry Potter as a book series is literally the book series that made me become a reader. I can't attribute any other book other than Harry Potter to this love that I have, and the reason why I'm here and the reason I'm doing this list right now. It really wouldn't have all been possible if I had not discovered those books as a child. Like, truly. Okay, next up we have Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. Now, this was also a cultural phenomenon. The domestic thrillers, I gotta put it in Yanar. I don't think this is a 5-star. This, looking back on it, maybe it was a 5-star in the moment. This is kind of like the book that kicked off my interest in like books like Ask Again Yes and Miracle Creek. Like, this falls into that kind of time in my life. But Little Fires Everywhere, the TV show, I loved. I was intrigued by the book, but like definitely not a 5-star when I like have gotten farther away from it. It's just not a 5-star book for me. It really isn't. You guys, a 5-star's gotta sit with you. Like, you know if it's a 5-star or not, like when you're looking back on these books, and that one was just not one of them, okay? Same goes for this next one. We have the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. It gave like Agatha Christie vibes, where you're like all at a house and like there's someone dies and then you're trying to figure out who's done it, and there's almost like a Groundhog's Day aspect to it, where it's like you're reliving the same day over and over until you figure out who's done it. But I don't think this is a 5-star. I remember being very surprised at the ending of this, but I don't think I could tell you literally anything else about the book. It oscillates between Don't Know Her or Yanar. I think if I had to go back, I'd probably give it a 4-star. But like, I don't remember much. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it in Yanar. It's probably a 4-star, to be honest with you. All right, oh my God, House of the Cerulean Sea! Okay, this is gonna be a hard one too. This is gonna be a hard one. Do I put it in Bury Me? Ugh. Or do I put it in period? I don't know. This one's a tough one. Somewhere Beyond the Sea just came out, and I wanted to read House in the Cerulean Sea again just to remember how I felt about it. I think I'm gonna put it in Bury Me, you guys. This book, I felt like the same type of feeling as when I had read Nevermore. This is like a book for adults, but evokes a sense of wonder similar to a middle grade would. It was so cute. It was so heartwarming. I think about that book all the time still. And I hope to God, if I reread this book and I, agree with my initial assessment of what I'm putting in Bury Me right now, I recommended it to so many people, and it is one of like the cutest, most genuine, heartwarming books of all time. And it made me really, really love TJ Klune as an author. I'm gonna put it in Bury Me. I think that that is the right feeling for that. Like, I love that book so much. Unbelievably much. Okay, you guys, next up we got Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This one's going straight to Yanar. I was a little overzealous. Little overexcited when I finished that book series. I think I was caught up in the hype of like literally every single person giving that book 5 stars. And I was like, I want to be part of the club. But in reality, wasn't a 5-star. In reality, it's maybe a 3.5 for me. Maybe 3. It does upset me that I still haven't gone on with the series, but like, I remember feeling so excited about it at the time. And then as time has gone on, I'm like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? And this is no shade to anyone who loves that book. I think if I had maybe read that book when I was like 18, I think I would have loved it, and maybe it would go into a different category. But yeah, looking back on it, it did not hold up the way that I had hoped that it would. I take back my rating on that one. I take it back. Tea! We're in the final stretch. We got 6 books left. Next one we got Daisy Jones and the Six. We're going straight to Bury Me with that one. I've reread that book twice. That book has changed me. That book is one of my favorite books of all time. The concept of being set in the 70s and like the romantic tension between Billy and Daisy is beautiful. The TV series is wonderful. That is one of my favorite books of all time. I will stand by that. That's definitely my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book. And she did something with that one. That one changed the core of my being. Like, if you have ever read that book or watched a TV show, I hope you understand. Love that book. Love that book to my dying day. Next one we have is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This one's going straight to period. While I did love this book so much, I thought it was stunning. The writing was beautiful. I don't have that same emotional reaction as I do with those books on the top of the list. But The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue was truly, truly wonderful. Again, perfect time to read that book this time of year. The vibes of that book are absolute perfection. The writing is perfection. I love that book so much. That is a total 5-star, and I stand by that rating. Next one we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. Now, you guys, we're getting into the books that I actually like love, and the video's almost over. Babel, Bury Me. Bury Me with Babel. The longer I get away from that book, the more I love it, the more I want to reread it. R.F. Kuang, she knew what she was doing with Babel. That is one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. The concept is so incredible. Like, the way that she incorporates the origins of language into that book is outstanding. You know, she did so much research for that. The discussion she has about colonialism in there is wonderful. And she's kind of in your face with the messaging of the book. But personally, I really, really appreciated it and loved it, because I think that some people, if you're not in their face with the messaging of the book, they're not gonna understand it and they won't get the message of what she's trying to say. And I think she did a really, really good job of it. And it's a book that is extremely intriguing. It's got that dark academia element to it. It's just so good. And I would reread that book. I love that book. I think it's absolutely outstanding. And that book made R.F. Kuang one of my favorite authors of all time, for sure, for sure. Next one we have is House of Earth and Blood. You know what? I'm only gonna put Court of Silver Flames and Bury Me with this book. I'm putting this one in period. I think House of Earth and Blood is absolute perfection when it comes to an urban fantasy. But I don't know. I feel like I don't love it as much as I love Court of Silver Flames. Court of Silver Flames, Bury Me with that one, but House of Earth and Blood, it doesn't have the same exact type of feeling as I do with Court of Silver Flames, but it is an outstanding book, and I think that's one of Sarah J. Maas's best books she's ever written. Okay, I'm gonna get through these ones really, really quickly, these last two. Dutch House, period, absolute period. That book is incredible as well. Ann Patchett is amazing. Listen to that book on audio if you haven't listened to it on audio. It's a generational family saga. Again, it's beautiful, like, would not change the rating. That is the only rating I would give it, is a 5-star. Tom Hanks narrates the audiobook, and you should totally give it a chance if you like literary fiction. And last one I have, before we finish up, is The Way of Kings. It's not going in period, you guys. The Way of Kings is going to Bury Me, okay? That book series, the Stormlight Archives, God bless the fact that I live in the time of Brandon Sanderson. That is, in my opinion, the best modern fantasy book of our time. I haven't read Game of Thrones. There's a lot of fantasy books that I haven't read, but in my opinion, of the fantasy book series I've read, that one is absolutely at the top. I love that book series. I've given every single one of those books a 5 stars. It is outstanding. And yeah, put that one in my coffin, okay? All right, everyone, so that is my completed tier list of books, of every book I have given 5 stars to. Here's just a little scroll. I'm kind of okay that this chart is too big, so I can just leave out the this is embarrassing section, because I am quite embarrassed by those books, to be honest with you, okay? I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far into the video, leave a star emoji down in the comments below, because we're rating books we get 5 stars. And if you haven't seen any of my other videos, check out some down below, or hit the subscribe button if you want to. I will see you guys in my next one. Peace and love, everyone. Bye!